Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Kylie Minogue, the Diminutive collection.
Every week, Kieran and Christy G revisit the pop boomerang's classic albums and relive some of her finer moments.
And in order to compile the most definitive Kylie collection yet, we will choose two of the best songs from each of her studio albums that make us feel all Kylie Smiley.
And bin the dodgy ditties that are Kylie Minonos.
This week, we step back in time to October 1991, when R&B Kylie emerged and the word was definitely out. That girl next door was well and truly gone. We're going to do it. Let's get to it.
Get you crazy thing.
I'm such a knob. But anyway, here we go. So, Christian, let's get to it.
The previous album, Rhythm of Love, had produced four of the greatest pop songs ears had ever heard. So we had Better Than Devil You Know and Step Back in Time and What Do I Have to Do and Shots.
Yeah.
And Kylie had become cool for the first time.
I think it's very, very different. I would love to go through her mind and just see, because she had obviously massive success with those four singles, as you said, but then to take her whole musical direction in a one sort of 80 flip.
Kind of madness in a way, because you don't fix what's not broken. And at that point, she'd actually reached a kind of the pinnacle of her career in some ways, because the songs were just so well received, and they also sounded so different to anything else that Stockcake and Waterman produced or anything that Kylie had produced. So, she was onto a good thing. So, most people would think, well, that's going very well. I'm going to carry on in that kind of groove. Apparently, at this point in time, Kylie was, there was thought that Kylie might move record labels. She was contracted to 3 albums with PW1. So I guess maybe she was thinking about taking a different musical direction.
And also at this point, Matt left, didn't he, to pursue his passion in motor racing.
Yeah, he said he was frazzled, wasn't he? Because I think by this point, by 1991, Stockcake and Waterman had been in the charts for almost every week for however long. And I think he was probably just exhausted. So he kind of went off to New Zealand, apparently, and then enjoyed some motor racing.
It's been said that Kylie agreed to stay on and do this album on the label, but she, on the proviso that she write with them for the first time. So this album marks her first kind of co-writes with Pete and Mike.
Bearing in mind the kind of R&B direction she took on this album, we can kind of see that her involvement and her influence may have been quite strong, because as we knew from the Rhythm of Love album, the songs that she recorded away from PWL were very much R&B American sounding kind of tracks, like all the songs that were on there. So
yeah, they were very different. I remember we said that it kind of felt like 2 albums.
Exactly, and obviously she'd always gone on about how much she liked Prince and kind of more R&B kind of music anyway. So I mean, in a way, that almost felt like she was trying to take control. And she'd previously said, hadn't she, that sometimes she'd come into the studio and they'd kind of say, look, the song's ready, go and sing it, and she'd have no input. So I think she kind of had them over a barrel, because she was their biggest artist at this point.
Well, I think it was her only that she was the only artist there, right? At that time, by 91, I think everyone kind of left and jumped ship from PWL.
Well, yeah, I think because Rick Astley had kind of given up pop music, I think, at that point, and then Jason Donovan had kind of fulfilled his 2 albums. Sonia kind of only did 1 album with them, and Big Fun, while they disappeared into wherever they disappeared to. So Kylie was the only one that really had that. She was their only true artist who was like an album seller. So I guess she was very important. And so if they wanted to keep her, then she knew she had a bit of influence over them and could kind of, bargain her way into producing the songs she actually wanted to produce.
Do you remember buying this album for the first time?
I do. It's got it's got very bittersweet memories, because I remember it coming out and I went to Whiteley's, which is in West London, and I was very excited. I think it might have been, was this October? I can't remember what it was now, but it was
October 91. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so I remember going in there and I remember taking it home, and I just remember. I remember coming home and my mum was arguing with my grandfather. So that's the memory I have of my first play of it. So I just threw myself into my room and kind of hid away from the argument. I mean, obviously we'd heard Word Is Out by this point. So I don't know. I was kind of a little bit underwhelmed. But that said, when I saw the album for the first time, and I saw that lovely kind of like moody cover shot, I thought, wow, she looks amazing. It looked like
stunning in that. It's stunning.
Yeah. I thought the imagery, which was, is it Jürgen Teller, the photographer, who kind of, so fashion photography. She was working with the big dudes of that time. So it was a really beautiful looking shot, and she got her own boyfriend on the cover.
Yeah, I was just going to say Zayn's on the cover now, right? Is on the left hand side of the cover. One thing that I was shocked at when I went to see the costume exhibition at the V&A of the color of that dress. I don't, in my mind, I always thought that was just a black and white dress. I don't know for the photo, but it's incredibly colored dress. I looked into it. It's a multicolored vanity print stretched lycra dress designed by Nobuhiko Kitamura for Hysteric Glamour in Japan. It's actually incredible to see that in person.
My God, Kieran, with that experience, you could be working for Vogue magazine. The way
Totally, right?
you just, those words just flew off your tongue.
I mean, for me, I remember getting this album. I think 11. Yeah, I would have been 11 at the time. And my grandmother bought me this album, and I remember taking it home and listening to it, being such a fan of Better the WNO and the four main singles that we mentioned, and like you, being a little bit less like, what am I listening to? I don't get this. Where's the bangers kind of thing? The Word Is Out was out in Australia. It wasn't my favorite song, but we can get onto that. But yeah, it was just a very different direction. And I think at that time at 11, full deeply, talking to Di in the fan club, I don't know if I was ready then for R&B Kylie.
No, that's true. I can kind of understand where she was coming from, because, she was, she's 22 or 23 by this point. 22, wasn't she?
22, yeah.
Yeah, so she was kind of growing, and she wanted the power. And apparently she said to Pete Waterman, if I'm going to stay, I want to make this album sexier, and I want to have musical references like Colour Me Bad, who were big in the charts at the time. There was a lot more kind of American music infiltrating the UK charts, and the kind of the high energy sound was kind of on its way out. So I think Kylie was actually quite clever in some ways, because she kind of saw that if she wanted to survive as a singer, she'd need to kind of produce songs that were probably a little bit more current. And for those people who always say she copies Madonna, she had her R&B album out way before Madonna had her R&B album out, which was Bedtime Stories.
Should we move on to The Word Is Out? Let's do the first single off the album. So this was released in August 91. The highest chart position, it reached a number 16 in the UK and 10 in Australia. However, there was different versions for the UK and Australia. So the Australian version, the one that I grew up listening to, it didn't feature the drums that we hear on the album track. It was more kind of, it had a different kind of piano. It was more, I think they took out the R&B-ishness, if that makes sense, for the Australian release, and made it a little bit more kind of pop dancey. But because the UK one had a different one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember before the song came out, I remember she did an interview in one of the magazines, I think it was Number One magazine, and she said her new sound was going to be, she called it big band, and in my head, I thought this meant she had the brass band on the record, and I thought, because I didn't really understand what big band meant, but at that point, big band referred to kind of R&B, kind of jazz infused, kind of like kind of part hip hop kind of music. So yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was wondering if she was going to sing All the Saints Go Marching Home. So when I did hear the song for the first time, I was kind of pleasantly surprised, but then I was kind of a little bit, I don't know, I was left a little bit cold, because it kind of took me back to Just Wanna Love You and I Miss You, those kind of songs that I hadn't been big fans of before. They had that kind of like, that kind of funky kind of staccato kind of beat to them. Like, it was more about rhythm than it was about melody for me, and so I didn't immediately like it, if I'm honest. Though again, as I always say, with my 30-year ears, it is a good song. It's nice to hear it every so often.
It's a good song, but is it a lead single? Is it the first single off the album?
No, it didn't make me think I must buy that, because if that's what the album sounds like, then that's put me off a little bit. If they'd been cleverer, I think I would have released one of the popular ones, like Right Here, Right Now, perhaps, because that kind of almost feels like it's coming from the last album into this album.
It could have made a nice transition from...
That's the word I was looking for, a transition. But this was an unusual one, because those of us who were so excited about all those 4 pop gems, it was such a letdown. It was like somebody just popped a balloon, and we were all kind of like left deflating listening to the song. And in some ways, the kind of chart position of it kind of reflects the kind of audience reaction to it, unfortunately.
It was her worst performing single to date of her career. So when it reached 16, it kind of ended the break in her top 10 run for nearly 4 years. That's incredible. Which would have been kind of, devastating news for PWL. They just kind of reformed and rebranded as the duo, and putting all their efforts into this album and it debuting so badly. A lot of people attribute it to the lack of TV promotion, and also the reliance on that video. And we should discuss
the classic video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Filmed in Camden.
Yes, Camden. It was something coming down an alleyway, and I mean, it looks quite pretty. It looks a little bit like it looks like Martin Scorsese was directing the video. It looks a little bit.
What do you think?
Well, no, I'm kind of being crazy right now. But no, she's got a beret, and they're dressed nicely. But basically, they're prostitutes down an alleyway, and their pimps are kind of all they're sitting around a fire, aren't they? And they're just kind of A burning
Kylie,
barrel.
Kylie looks like a prostitute. She looks so small compared to all the other dancers in that video, and she dressed. Yeah, it's. I think the most memorable thing about that video is Davina McCall.
But the video, I mean, looking back, the video is completely tame compared to what we have these days.
Yeah,
But I remember at the time, Pete Waterman kind of said a few years after the song came out that he thought that dressing up as a prostitute wouldn't have been his choice. And he kind of thought that it was too fast a move for Kylie to go from Girl Next Door to pop strumpet, sashaying down a cobbled alleyway, looking like a $5 an hour hooker. So I can understand it because I guess it was a big shock for us because we were used. I mean, even when Kylie was sexing it up on "What Do I Have to Do" and Shocked, it was kind of quite playful and it was kind of glossy and glamorous. And
this seemed a little bit seedy, didn't it? This seemed a little bit seedy.
But then it went with the music. The music kind of, when you put the two together, actually, if you look at it now, the music is kind of like that, and it's kind of sleazy, and it does work well, and I can kind of see what she's doing. But maybe she was just ahead of her time, and I never thought I'd say that.
Kylie said in the press, "I am confused. They keep saying the new Kylie. I mean, is there another one? I'm getting confused as to which change they're talking about at the moment because I'm constantly changing. I've been constantly changing for the past 2 years. The point of the press is to sell as many papers as they can do, and they need to be sensational. In the past few months, I've actually had great press, but they love you, they hate you, they feel sorry for you. They just can't be saying the same thing all the time. They love to contradict themselves. I'm disappointed at the moment that I have to keep going on about this bad press. I've had it before and I will have it again. Well, I think if I hadn't changed at all, I'd probably be less interesting to them anyway. If I was still doing exactly what I was doing 4 years ago, I would certainly be brought to tears."
Well, I mean, I always feel sorry for people in the public eye because, you know, especially teen stars who make their career based on one image, and then obviously they grow up as human beings, and then they obviously grow up as as an artist as well. So you're going to see a change in the way they are. So it must be frustrating for them to hear, because especially Kylie, there was always so much about, oh, look, she's turning into this and she's doing this and she's too sexy and she's that. Oh, she's been trying to copy Madonna. And I remember there's a brilliant thing on YouTube somewhere where there's a montage of all these interviews where they ask Kylie, oh, are you influenced by Madonna? And you can see as each one goes along, her eyes become dead. Yeah, so I felt sorry for Kylie. And, you know, the thing is, her image progression was great because she didn't do anything silly. She didn't have pink hair and she didn't shave her head and she didn't do stupid things. She actually matured into a very beautiful, kind of sexy young woman. So, you know, last album, she looked very kind of Brigitte Bardot and it was all kind of beautiful, you know, 60s bouffant. This one was a little bit more kind of pared down. She looked a little bit less sexy, I think, weirdly, than the previous album because the cover shot is sultry more than sexy.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. To the B-side of this, "Say the Word and I'll Be There." Tune!
Now, in some ways, I kind of wish this was the A-side because even though it's not a high-energy banger, it's a song that is so good and it's one of my favorite, my all-time favorite songs because it's just got a lovely, beautiful melody. And it's a great song, absolutely. And it was a surprise because when I heard the lead single, I thought, oh God, the B-side is going to be R&B rubbish as well. So when I heard the other song, I thought, blimey, this is great.
It's a very mature song, I thought. I think the piano is just beautiful. I think her sound and how she sings is it's really top quality production. I would love to have had this track as a hidden track on the album, kind of like after, and just have it kind of hidden there for the fans to find. I just loved it.
Well, interestingly, this song was recorded in a session that was called Kylie Sings the Blues. So this is when she recorded 3 of the ballads, which were Say the Word, No World Without You, and If You Were With Me Now. And it was, straight away they thought the song didn't fit in with the R&B sound, so it was already relegated to B-side material, as was originally No World Without You, but Kylie fought for that to go on the album. But I think you're right. I think they missed a trick by at least giving us 12 tracks to choose from, because especially when we get to the end of the album, we have this kind of crazy high energy to Unlimited homage that completely doesn't fit in with anything else. So you could have thrown another kind of style in.
But then you say that, but I think there's a few of those tracks on the album that doesn't really fit with anything else. Like If You're With Me Now doesn't fit with anything else on the album. It's completely left field. But we'll get to that anyway.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Did we move on now to... Well, we've spoken about the album, haven't we, really? Yeah, let's move on to the second song on the album, which is Gimme Just a Little More Time. So this reached number 2 in the UK and number 9 in Australia, released in January 92, and was the third cover of Kylie's career. I can tell you don't like this song, do you?
Did you say the third or the third cover of her career? Because this is one of my least... You know what? I thought I hated The Locomotion, and I thought I hated Tears on My Pillow. But this one, I hate more. Mainly because it's so incessantly upbeat and perky, and it's got that horrible thing in it, which I can't do. But because it has all of those factors, I hate it. I absolutely hate it, but I understand why they released it as a second song. It was clearly, oh my God, this album is a disaster. We need to sell this album, make it sound like there's a pop song on it, and put this one out.
Completely, 100% agree.
It's a terrible, terrible song. The original song is horrible. I hate it.
Well, actually, this was the third single off the album, but the second album track. Because the second single was If You're With Me Now, which is their understanding of, okay, we need to get a good song out to make it sell. The video was directed by Greg Musak. I'm probably saying that wrong, Masak. It was shot in Battersea in a studio in November 91. And 3 days later, another pop group came in and recorded their video after Kylie, and that was Take That with Everything Changes.
I think the Take That song came a couple of years later, I think. Did it come in 94, 93? Well, because I thought there was a bit of a gap, because I remember, obviously, Kylie's video is ingrained in my memory, because the video was actually quite polished and it looked really good, I have to admit, even though the song was absolutely horrific. And then I remember a while later when Take That's Everything Changes came out, I thought, I know that video. And then I realised that, it was kind of very, very similar. And then I discovered that it was the same director. So clearly he had one idea.
Everything Changes, was written 93, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time as the, but giving just a little more time as a single, had the benefit of being used on an Accurist watch advert. Because at that point, when they were looking to get the permission to use the song as a release, they discovered that the watch company were going to be using the song anyway, not her song, but that song. So after a few negotiations, the Kylie song was used in the advert. So that kind of gave that song a boost, and which will probably explain why it's number 2.
I don't hate it as much as you do. I think the lip vibrating thing, I think it kind of elevates it a little bit. But yeah, it is very, very different to what is on the album.
Anyway, it's enough to make me have sleepless nights. I hate it. I hate it.
Track 3, Too Much of a Good Thing. Banger! I love this song so much. It should have been a single.
Amen. I agree with you. This is the song that when I was going through the album, when I heard the opening bit, I thought, oh my God, this song is amazing. It was sexy. It was, I don't know. It was one of those songs that feels grindy. It's filthy.
This should have been the first single. This should have been instead of Word Is Out, because you've still got that dancey Rhythm of Love / you can see this progression from Rhythm of Love, but this would have been a nice kind of transitional song for the album, definitely.
Yeah, and it's just got a good tune, to be honest. It kind of, and it was also people always kind of say that it sounds a little bit similar to Lisa Lisa and is it the Cult? Something I can't remember what they had a song called "Let the Beat Hit 'Em," and it had a similar kind of like melody rhythm. And I remember one time I was in an art lesson, and I got really excited because I thought I heard Too Much of a Good Thing on the radio. I thought, oh my God, they're playing that on the radio. And it turned out to be Lisa. I was a bit disappointed by that, but it was very, it's a sexy song. It's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like you should be in a dark room somewhere, you have some friends around and, you ply them with booze and then you kind of try and get them to, try and contribute to a Human Centipede or something, because it's one of those songs that this seems like it's really sleazy, like you're in a dungeon.
Did Stockhaken and Waterman produce did Stockhaken and Waterman produce the Lisa Lisa track?
No, that was an American track. I think this is an album that, this is like the Magpie album in the sense that they borrowed sounds from lots of other songs. So, for example, Word Is Out, is very, very close to Guy's New Jack City song.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it, it's got the same kind of drum rhythm. It's got similar melody. Nothing, not too close to Word Is Out, but the whole vibe and the sound of it is very similar. So at this point, I think Kylie and Mike were probably thinking, well, I like that song, so let's borrow that sound and get the inspiration from that song and then, work her own magic onto it.
The next track on the album is Finer Feelings. This was released in April 92, the last single off the album, and probably one of the best, I think, off the album.
Well, this is another surprise because it sounds unlike, this is kind of like as good as the triumphant, majestic 4 from Rhythm of Love, because it's a really clever song. It's a really beautiful song. It's very complex. It's really unusually produced on the album.
Yeah.
Because it's really sultry and it really gets under your skin, and it's really sexy, and it feels like it's the kind of song that you would probably make love to someone. I mean, it's 3.5 minutes, so maybe, Kieran, you'd be making love to them 2 or 3 times in that period of time. But it's the kind of song that you kind of, afterwards, you think you were left with some kind of afterglow. Beautiful, beautiful.
I love the remix. I love the single remix that was done by Brothers in Rhythm. They're at the time were Britain's most predominantly, We're On Demand is Britain's producing team, right? The best producing team.
Yeah, it was different for them because they were kind of doing the kind of handbags in the air kind of dance floor tune. So they give this song a really kind of ice cool, almost kind of cutting edge kind of sound. It was kind of very, very beautiful, very nice, but very sophisticated. It didn't sound cheap, and it kind of gave ballads basically a much more exciting kind of sound.
It wasn't, gave it an edge, and I think the songwriting on this as well is genius because it was written by Kylie and Stockholm Wartsman. So it was an achievement in the writing field.
Well, this is one of the songs that when Kylie first was speaking to Pete Wartsman about doing a 4th album, she said, I want to use the word sex. I'm old enough to be using the word sex in it. So this was recorded in one of the first sessions that was recorded with, I think it was with Let's Get To It, Finer Feelings and Word Is Out. And obviously you've got that kind of sultry lyric, but what is love without the finer feelings? It's just sex without the sexual healing. So these were words that she'd never used in her songs before because they were always quite innocent, quite, 16-year-old schoolgirl kind of like lyrics. So these sounded more personal, they sounded more sexual, and I think, it kind of showed a progression in Kylie's lyricism or lyrics and her music.
So you mentioned sexual healing. In Smash Hits in '88, Kylie said about sexual healing, every time I hear it, I feel like I have to dance. It's a bit raunchy, it's a bit bluesy, it just attracts me. So Sexual Healing is her favourite song from her youth.
Ah, well, there you go. She threw in a song title she liked.
The video was directed by Dave Hogan, who did Shocked and What Do I Have to Do? So she got him back again to do this. Shot in Paris on location this time and not in a studio like Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Yes, you can barely tell the difference between the two videos.
And Christian, we have been to those stairs where she drops the groceries down.
And what did you do when we got there? Did you also try and drop your groceries?
Yes, I did. I threw my bag down the stairs. But what struck me about this film clip is that she drops the groceries and then just walks away, and the other guy kind of picks them up, and she's not even concerned about her baguette rolls and fruit.
Well, she probably wasn't eating much at that point. She was so slender. She was probably on a diet. That's the way she was trying. That was her diet. She'd buy the food, then not eat it by throwing it down some steps. But that video was beautiful.
Oh, stunning.
Dave Hogan was clear. She obviously knew with him, he was going to produce a video that was kind of really, 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 really beautiful. And, this one was different to the previous two he'd worked on. You had her lying there in front of a fire, and you saw this beautiful shot of her standing on that kind of big piazza that has the Eiffel Tower and the backdrop, and it's moody. It's kind of almost like it's almost not film noir, but it kind of alludes to that.
She looks gorgeous as well. Looks absolutely gorgeous.
Stunning.
The flip side of this track is Closer, which is incredible. It's like a trance dance track. Do you know what? When I first heard this song, I imagined it playing, Basic Instinct, where Catherine and Roxy are on the dance floor and Michael Douglas is watching them. I can imagine this track playing immediately after that track in the movie. It's just incredible.
You're right. It's one of those songs. It's very breathy because there's a breathy kind of sample in this song, isn't it? And it's kind of relentless. This is another weird thing. So Kylie was doing all this R&B stuff on the album, but then on the B side, she was doing all these kind of rave tracks, which obviously was another kind of musical trend at that point because it was all the kind of smiley faces and all the raves and all the clubs. So at this point, I think they're trying to move Kylie into that direction. But originally, just out of interest, this song Closer started out as one of the kind of like Chicago housey type songs. But then they decided to strip all the verses out, and they turned it into some kind of off your head club rave banger. And it's good for what it is. It's good for what it is. It's not something you wouldn't listen to it in your contemplative moments. You'd have to be off your head somewhere.
But look, I still think that it should have been on the album. I don't think it's too far of a departure from. I mean, why not throw it on the album? You've got ballads, you've got techno, you've got R&B, it's a mishmash. This album. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not. I don't feel like it's consistent.
Well, now you say that out loud, you make it sound like it's actually one of the most cutting-edge albums ever made, because it isn't one that you can define. It isn't one that's just one sound. Like like Golden has obviously got that country flavour. This one, as you say, I think the original idea was to go down an R&B route, but then you do have ballads, and then you do have these kind of like weird. I mean, maybe they could have been cleverer and actually produced a double CD album and had kind of like an R&B side to experiment, and then have a bit of a pop club sound on another CD.
Or just put all the songs on sort of side A, all your R&B ones, and then to turn the tape over, and you've got a whole different side of her, and it could have been quite interesting.
Back then, I had CDs, Kieran. I moved on to CDs by that point, so it's just all on one disc at that point. Welcome to 1991.
So the next track we're going to is "If You're With Me Now," the duet. Keith Washington. If You're With Me Now, the duet by Keith Washington. Released in October 91, went to number 4 in the UK and an abysmal number 23 in Australia.
Well, this is a weird one, isn't it? Because it's actually quite a lovely song. It's a very good song, in fact. But it's not one that you expect from Kylie. So it's not a Kylie song. It's a kind of middle-of-the-road American. You can imagine Whitney Houston singing it with Bobby Brown or someone, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. This is the song that came out when the album was being released.
Yeah, this was, so October, same time, yeah.
Which
and this was the second single.
Yeah, so as you said before, because I obviously thought Give Me Just a Little More Time was the rescue song. I guess this following Word Is Out must have confused Kylie fans completely, because they've heard R&B and they thought, I don't like that one. Oh, and then all of a sudden there's this kind of weird, wishy-washy, string-laden ballad, which again wasn't What Do I Have to Do or Better the Devil You Know. So what were fans to think? It was just a very bizarre second single choice. But then again, with 30-year-old ears, it's a beautiful song. There's a lovely version of it with there's an instrumental, but they're taking away all the drum beats, I think, and it's just an orchestral version. That's very, very beautiful. And her voice really does sound great, and it melds very well with Keith Washington's voice.
Yeah, they do sound great together. They didn't record it together; they recorded separately, and I don't think they ever met. Even for the video, they were separate.
I don't think they ever did meet. And the thing is, the poor old fella didn't even get a look in on the cover, because if you look closely, he's in the corner. He's right in the corner. Yeah. But I mean, he had his own career. I mean, they chose originally the song had been demoed with a guide sample, which I had written this down because I can't remember his name, but it was Cleveland Watkiss, and so that was done in the ballad sessions, and so at this point Keith Washington was just blowing up in America. He'd released an album over there called Make Time for Love, and there's a song called Kissing You that was a big hit over there. So Pete Waterman thought it might be a good idea to get him involved, so they recorded it separately. But I do remember in Smash Hits that Marky Mark, the rapper, now actor, was a friend of Keith Washington's, and he was furious. He had bitten his lip and recorded the song with Kylie. He thought it was a terrible move and a terrible decision. And then just weeks later, Marky Mark was on the cover of Smash Hits holding Kylie Minogue in his hands. Ooh. So I'm hoping that Kylie took him to task about what he said.
Well, hopefully as well. I think that there was method in the madness to get Keith to record this, because obviously I think PWL wanted to kind of try to break her into the US again, right? By having him record with her. It could have been a possible shot, but this single wasn't released in the US. It didn't actually get there, so.
No, I don't think it ever appeared on any of his albums, I don't think. I don't think it's a song that he probably refers to these days, but it was lush, it was majestic, and the video was actually really good too. There's bits of it where there's a lovely bit where it looks like she's being filmed in a kind of a wasteland, and she's got her hair in this kind of like 40s curls. She looks a bit like a young Joan Collins, and she just looks stunning in the video.
Yeah, she's
a lovely video.
Apparently Finer Feelings was originally supposed to be the second single, but pulled for this.
I guess it's more mainstream. It's more mainstream than perhaps Final Feelings. And I think this would get the mums and the grannies. I think it harks back to classic 70s, 80s big ballads, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's not, there's no kind of cool edge to it.
But from the album as itself, it just feels misplaced. It does.
Yeah, it does. But
From what we've spoken about so far, and what we've talked about, you've got your R&B, you've got your Give Me a Little More Time, I suppose, is that kind of 70s-ish kind of poppy disco. This just feels a little bit left of center to what we've already had on the album.
But then I'd also say that it reminds me a little bit of the song on the first album.
Also, I'm Still Loving You. Look My Way.
No,
I'll still be loving you.
You see, I think they're quite similar in terms of their sound. I think I'll Still Be Loving You was kind of the Bon Tempi version of one of those big Whitney Houston ballads. Well, this is Kylie's proper attempt at releasing a song that is a real belter where her voice is showcased. And the other thing about this song is, I think it actually did make people realize that she had a great voice. So I'm glad she recorded it. But you're right, maybe it wasn't for this album.
Let's Get To It is the next track on the album. I'm still unsure why they decided to call the album Let's Get To It. I mean, it's an okay track, but it's not the most memorable track on the album, is it?
Going back to what Kylie had, when she was bargaining with Pete Walton, she said she wanted songs to sound like I Wanna Sex You Up by Colour Me Bad, which is a massive number one across the world at that point. And I remember reading somewhere that Mike Stock said that he hated that song and he thought he didn't like it. But he obviously bit his lip, and the two of them produced a song that obviously had a lot of similar sounds to I Wanna Sex You Up. So it was obviously, maybe they were thinking that song fit the time, and so it was kind of borrowing sound from what was currently, storming the charts across the world. So I can kind of see why the song's there. But then you've also got Let's Get To It on the opening to Too Much of a Good Thing as well, haven't you? And the kind of little sampled vocal in the background. So obviously that was a theme spread throughout the album.
I mean, it's easy to listen to. It's not my favorite on the album. Right Here, Right Now is the next track. So this is, I think, a more mature evolution of the 70s sounding Step Back in Time, I think. It has an essence of the 70s with more of an updated R&B kind of treatment, if that makes sense. I really quite like it. It's got a really catchy chorus.
This is my favorite on the album. As you said, this should have been the lead single because it's a brilliant pop song. It kind of borrows the sound of the Silk Hurley was remixing lots of songs at that point. They all sounded the same. They had this kind of da, 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 and lots of housey pianos in the background. He did Kim Sims and he produced some Danny Minogue's records. And this sounded very much like a Silk Hurley track. He's not involved in the slightest. And I'm gutted it wasn't released because I'd love to have heard him remix it. But years later, I was horrified to discover that the whole backing track, even the string part, that sounds like Psycho, is, and I don't even like using the words, but like a total rip-off of a song by Shay Jones. It was a song called Are You Gonna Be There?
Really?
And if you play it, it is basically the same song.
Oh my God.
And it breaks my heart slightly because this is my favorite. I mean, obviously they put a different melody on the top, but musically, it is absolutely the same. Right down to the backing track, the drum beat, the string bit, the piano bit. Dun, dun. Oh, honestly, I was so devastated to hear that because I was such a big champion of that song for years, saying this is an amazing song. But obviously, previously somebody else had the song first. But obviously, the melody and the lyrics are all kind of stock and Minogue.
The next track on the album is Live and Learn. I mean, I think it's slightly unmemorable. I think the only kind of saving grace in this is the chorus, in my opinion. It's an album track. It's definitely an album track.
Yeah, this feels like a song that I would have actually put on a B-side to a single because there's something about it. Even though it's a really weird ploddy pace, the percussion just sounds oddly lackluster. It's got no real movement to it. Melody-wise, I actually do quite like it, and I wish it had been given a different, or somebody had remixed it because it just feels like it needs a slightly different backing track. It feels like they were getting bored, and even the computer program they were using sounded bored recording it. So it wasn't. It just felt very lackluster. But you're right. The chorus has got this great It's a great chorus. It's got great rhythm.
Yeah. So No World Without You is the next track. It's the second last track actually on the album. We're plowing through this, Christian. I think this is a much better ballad than the duet, and I think it's needed on the album. Kylie's vocals on this are absolutely stunning. You can really hear the maturity and growth in her voice for like over the past 4 years. Like it's a very simple production with just the guitars and her vocals, and I think it's one of the most standout tracks. Again, doesn't fit on the album in terms of the story, like, you know, the whole arc of it, but I think I love it. It's a great song.
You see, I have to disagree a little bit. I think this is another kind of lull, because this follows on from
Live and Learn.
Live and Learn, and it just feels like we're kind of, it's like they pull the plug out and all the water's going down the plug hole, and this song doesn't help. To me, it sounds a little bit like Heaven and Earth from Enjoy Yourself. It's kind of like it's bastard brother in some way, although obviously it's slightly more polished, more sophisticated. But for me, it's just a little bit.
Well, maybe you needed this song to get into the banger that is, I guess. I Like It Like That, right?
Yeah, but it's still not a song that. It's not a song that I get excited about. But then Kylie loves it. She fought for it to be on the album. It's going to be a B-side at one point. She fought for it to be on the album. There's a couple of mixes of it. There's one where it's really pared down. There's one that has a bit of a production on it. So clearly there was a lot of love for the song. But I mean, for this particular Kylie fan, it was one of those that kind of passed me by slightly.
Ooh. We're going to go through the Kylie Smileys and the Minogues after we go through the track listings. But yeah, the last track on the album, I guess I Like It Like That. So this was the flip side to If You Were With Me Now. And it couldn't be more different.
Well, no, this is... So we've had R&B, we've had middle-of-the-road ballads, we've had a little bit of country-infused guitar-y jangling, and 60s rip-offs. And then we have two unlimited Euro pop.
Yes.
That had been... Has it been number one? It was number one across Europe. It's a funny song, isn't it? Because it feels, again, not like a Kylie song. It feels like it's somebody else featuring Kylie. But in some ways, it's a really fun song because it's so upbeat and it's so ridiculous.
It was a massive hit in Australia in the gay clubs.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was over here because I don't think I was going to clubs at that point because I was a loser. So I didn't really go out to hear if that was a hit there. But it is. I don't know. If you like Two Unlimited, you'd love it, which I guess is, again, what Pete Waterman was trying to do. He just kind of signed them to PWL Continental. So I guess in some ways he could sample the track and also make money from it as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess he was kind of thinking, well, this sound is doing very, very well on the charts. Let's give Kylie a song that feeds that audience. And obviously there's another version of this song which was released as a white label under the name of Angel K.
Yes, Angel K, yes.
Yeah, tell me about that one, Kieran.
It was massive because no one knew it was Kylie. So they were playing it in these clubs and everyone's like, this is amazing. And when they found out that it was Kylie, DJs were dismissing the If You're With Me Now single and flipping it and playing the B-side, which was, I guess, I Like It Like That. And which is amazing because the song is so much better than If You're With Me Now. Completely different as well. The track was also remixed by Vision Masters and they released it as Keep On Pumping It as a single as well. And that came a big club hit in the UK and reached number 49 in the UK charts. And that single is very rare to get still. So I think it's a collectible as well.
Yeah, it was a very hardcore version of that song. It kind of took away if the album track was, I guess I Like It Like That is very poppy. It's kind of like, you can imagine a bunch of 12-year-olds jumping up and down, having eaten lots of sweets, just bumping up and down to that song, while the club version was a lot more hard. But to be honest, Kylie isn't really on the record. It's just that the wailing she does, the Kylie wail that she does so well. That's the only bit that features Kylie, to be honest. So the rest of it's all kind of monotonous dance floor tosh.
Well, that's the last track on the album, Christian. Should we go through the album now and let me know what Smiley and Minogue know?
Yes, I would love to.
Word is out.
Oh God, it's a hard one. I'm going to say it's a Smiley Kylie, but because I appreciate it more now that we're of a certain age and we kind of appreciate the cutting edgeness of it, that she tried to do something a bit different.
Yeah, I'm giving the Australian version a Kylie Smiley because that's the one that I kind of grew up with and liked. So Australian
Mm.
version of Word Is Out, it's Kylie Smiley. Give me just a little more time. I think I know your answer.
Well, exactly. To quote to Unlimited, no, 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 no. That song is terrible. I hate it.
It's a Kylie Smiley for me because I love the
Oh,
too much of a good thing.
oh, Kylie Smiley.
Million times over. Tune. Banger. Finer feelings.
Again, another smiley Kylie.
Smiley Kylie for me as well. If you're with me now.
I like the song, so I'm going to say it's a smiley Kylie. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's pretty good.
I'm giving it a Kylie Smiley based on the song, but I'm a no-no for the inclusion on the album, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll give it a Kylie Smiley, but it's teetering on the edge of a no-no for being on the album. Let's get to it right now. Make it happen somehow.
Well, I guess, God, you see, this is the thing, Smiley Kylie, because I actually think it's a good song.
Yeah, it's a Kylie Smiley, Mona Lisa smile, Kylie Smiley for me. Yeah,
Yeah, so Mona Lisa smile. I like that.
right here, right now.
Please, this is the album standout, and it's criminal. Like Turn It Into Love and Your Disco Easy, that it never got released as a single, and
Yep.
who knows what fortunes the album would have had if that had been the first single. Eh? But yeah, definitely Smiley Kylie. It's makes me smile from ear to ear.
Yes. Same as well. Live and Learn. I'm giving this a Kylie Smiley as well.
Yes, as you say, it's not one that I would dash to listen to. Though there was a good 12-inch remix which I quite like listening to.
I mean, it's slightly unmemorable, as I said, but still, I'm giving it a smiley because I'm in a good mood today. No World Without You.
Well, I don't want to say it's a no-no either, because it's not actually that bad. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my favourite song. I would use your phrase. It's a Mona Lisa smile. It's not my favourite, but it makes me grin.
Yeah, I'm giving it a Kylie Smiley, and I guess I like it like that.
But you see, I made it sound like a minute ago like I didn't like the song because I kind of got carried away with all the Turn Limited stuff. But actually, in reality, it's a hands in the air. It's nonsense. It's pop nonsense.
It's great pop nonsense, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's crazy nonsense. And you know what? I actually kind of wish she had this as a single, because if she had this right here, right now, Too Much of a Good Thing, Give Me Just a Little More Time, they would have been a great run of 4 singles because they were energetic, they were fun, and they were brilliant. Totally. I guess I like it like that. It's madness. It's like a lunatic has gone crazy in the studio while Mike Stock was at home having a cup of chamomile tea. It sounds like someone went mad in there, and that's kind of why I like it, because it's insane. It's like, and also to add it onto an album full of kind of relatively low-key R&B songs, it's like, what were they thinking? It was mad.
Before we decide which of the 2 songs are going to go onto our definitive diminutive Kylie Minogue album, let's talk about the Let's Get To It tour, which was the 25th of October to the 8th of November, 91 in the UK.
Yes.
Did you go to that?
I did. In Australia, it was called something else. Or
it was the Rhythm of Love. So she started with the Rhythm of Love, and then it ended with the Let's Get To It. So she was kind of between both.
Yes, yeah. So this was, this was a great one. I saw it when it came to London, and it was very good. But of course, the press had their knives out, because this is another period of time where Kylie was maturing in age, and so she was dressing sexier on the shows.
They dubbed it pornographic, didn't they? They kind of dubbed the show pornographic, because there was black garters, fishnets, suspenders, like frilly knickers. I mean,
railway men's hats. There was that hat she wore that looked like someone who worked on the railways. She'd booked the services of John Galliano.
John Galliano.
Yeah. The designer. And so he kind of designed all these clothes for her. And there were frilly bras. And when she first comes on stage, when she's wearing this kind of see-through mac with a kind of a bright blue kind of frilly bra top, and kind of almost like a pair of granny pants, but with a frilly blue bit at the front as well. But her hair was like kind of curled like Hilda Ogden from Coronation Street. But she still looked good. She had this amazing, beautiful, intricate makeup, and she looked stunning. But it was just one of those, I guess it was a bit of a transition, because she'd gone being, from wearing the kind of like girly teenage sequin hot pants to suspenders and fishnet tights, which I guess causes a bit of a rumpus in most people's minds. And but the funniest thing is, when she did when she arrives on stage at the beginning of the show, she's singing "Step Back in Time." Just that kind of fun, sexy kind of pop song. But and she's wearing the kind of suspenders, the PVC jacket, and all that kind of stuff. But then she goes into "Got to Be Certain," which is very weird, because that song sounds so far removed from the way she looks. So when she's singing that song in a really ridiculously sexy outfit, it kind of there is a weird clash. It seems very odd. So I think in some ways she didn't maybe think the show through well enough in some ways, because I just thought some of the songs didn't really work with the outfits because she was a little bit on the saucy side.
I think one of the highlights of the show is the inclusion of Jazzy P and Shocked.
Oh, Pauline.
Pauline.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Pauline, Christian.
Well, Pauline. Now, what do we know? So, Pauline came from the dark, nasty streets of Wolverhampton. And she kicked off her rap career in a fierce rap dance group, if you please, called the Brutal Ladies. And if you remember her thighs from the tour, you can imagine how brutal she is. Now, she got spotted. I've taken some notes on this because obviously I'm not a Pauline fan. She was spotted by LA Mix at a DMC Rap Championship in 1988. And then she teamed up with DNA for a record called Rebel Woman that sampled a David Bowie song. And it was DNA who obviously had a remixed Shocked. So when they did that, they called on Pauline's services, or Jazzy P, as she liked to be known at that point. And so she did a couple of raps for the song. On the single version, there's the bit in the middle, and then on the 12-inch, you got that lovely opening rap, which is sensational. So on this tour, Kylie dragged old Jazzy P along with her for the ride, and she makes an entrance that has gone down in Kylie legend. It's a legendary moment where she's up there in a black leather jacket, and she's wearing skin-tight black leggings that kind of just, they reach the knee, so they're slightly an unflattering length.
Yes.
So then she, as she's doing her rap and she's kind of walking down this ramp on the stage, she's there, she pulls back her jacket slightly to reveal her black bustier, and then she starts wiggling her body like an epileptic, and then she says, "We're going to get sexy, y'all." The other thing about her is she said afterwards that she had told Kylie she thought her music was shit. But she said to her that she, that since having gone on tour with her, she appreciated the fact that the songs were actually very good, and she'd seen her perform live and heard her sing live and thought she was a very good artiste. But then she would say that because she was paid to go on tour with it.
Yeah, bless her. Yeah, God bless Pauline. So now that we've talked about the tour, let's go and discuss which of the songs on Let's Get To the album we're going to be putting on the definitive Diminutive Kylie Minogue album.
Mm-hmm. So
I think we're going to be in agreement that what's too much of a good thing is going to be
definitely that should definitely be on there.
Yeah,
that's an essential album track on this.
What do we think for the second and final?
Well, I mean, I kind of made it obvious by my wild praise for it, but right here, right now, has to be the other.
I agree. Track. Yeah, I agree. And if we were going to pick a third, I would probably say Guess I Like That. Well,
ditto. We're saying exactly the same thing. So yeah, all those. In fact, let's add another bonus one, because I feel like we did that last week. We put all 4 singles on it last week.
We did.
So let's just break the rules again and let's have a third one, because you know what? They were the best 3 songs on it. So
let's do it.
Would be perfect album.
Perfect. Brilliant. This is going to be such a cracker collection of songs.
Let's hope Kylie takes the lead and releases it.
So guys, if you like what you hear, just drop us a line at the Kylie Smiley podcast at gmail.com, or find us on Instagram at @the_diminutive_collection. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Bye.